You know what I'm saying? Here I want to explain to you a couple of these think tank database operations that they've done. They go by many names, man. They're like corporate fascist think tanks, man. I don't know what else to call them. They're like social engineering. You know what I'm saying? Like through uh, economic dictatorship. Also, like look, total control, like mastery of the human domain. This is what has led up to mastering of the human domain, which is Jade Helm. All these operations, and I'm gonna just spit them all off the top of my head, man. For instance, you have silent weapons for silent wars. Hear that fucking in that damn helicopter? Uh, silent weapons for silent wars, and basically that was where. All right, you know how you got those little Kroger things that you go and you get, and like gas cards and things like that. Well, every time you use those, it's in a database, and a corporation has access to it, and they make these maps of you, and they see exactly how much resources and commodities that you use daily, and they try to figure out ways they can nudge you into using less resources, and eventually to the bare minimum. And this is the same thing that they did in Nazi Germany camp. Is that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to study at what point do people give out. Well, if we pump them up with this drug, if we give them this, if we give them this disease, how long do they last? They were doing heavy science experiments on how long people could live and die. And since they were straight up, they were walking dead people, they figured, well, we might as well let our scientists experiment on them. This is the same type of mindset that these think tank operations come out of. Here's another one. The continuity of government. That is out of the Oliver North trials, and it's where the government was planning in case of martial law, in case of a disaster, in case of a breakdown, a civil breakdown. They would somehow keep the structure in place. Like at all means, it doesn't matter about what happens to the people. It's all about preserving the structure. You know what I'm saying? So in that event, they look at the people as the enemy, and the structure has to imprison them all to preserve continuity of government, which basically means rule by fiat, rule by the federal government, rule by the international cartel, the cabal, basically. And now you can see Infogard and infusion centers are a continuity of government. And correlated to that is something called Rex 84. And in Rex 84, it's a blueprint on, they got it marked down to the time and the hours and how long they would starve out populations. Like city populations, they would have a black unit of, they would have black leaders, political leaders say, hey, just go to the camps, like basically clergy response teams. And they would have these guys try to quell the violence and curb everyone to the FEMA camps. And then the black police would come in and take the black people to the camps. The Mexican police would come and take the Mexicans to the camps. And then once they got them in the camps, they would disarm the black population and the Mexican population, throw them in the camp. And the camp is basically, it is the vaporization chamber of 1984. I mean, if you listen to the Huxley, Berkeley, his his presentation or whatever he did there, he was talking about, like, listen, when he was talking about rule by violence, rule by force, and he was talking about the government. He wasn't speaking of, he was speaking on terrorism as the way that they controlled populations. But he said we're going to mix in some chemical action, you know what I'm saying, and some operant conditioning shit too, and some trauma based mind control little action. But so I mean, he's a part of this think tank type mentality that Rex 84 comes out of. That silent weapons for silent wars, which is just that's basically your microchip beast system. It is. It's trying to figure out a way to crash things so people have to take the cashless, and then you can be totally rationed. You can be rationed and given just bare minimum to stay alive and keep working. And they prefer your mind to be unhealthy and you to be sick and not being able to think. Uh, because that helps. You don't ask no questions then. That's just like in 1984. Everything that doesn't fit the main narrative gets tossed on the memory hole and gets erased. And if you mention it, you'll disappear down the memory hole, basically. So either you conform or be vaporized. Basically, that's the 1984 model. And the Huxley model is fear is the fear of violence, the threat of terrorism, which is